Right, started to the meeting. Okay, so second, before we move on to the new agenda items, please note that the fire exits here, out there, out front door, and there's also one side door just past this door on the right. Okay, so the items that no one knows about, I've been told about the last 10 minutes, are that public members pointed out that we should hold a minute's silence. That is generally how we deal with things. And therefore I propose that we have a minute's silence straight away before the meeting starts. The minute's silence will start now for Becky Brothwell. Okay, thank you. The minute's silence has ended. Right, okay, so we'll move on. First of all, we will instate standing orders. Then we've moved to Jan, who's got some stuff to say.
Yeah. So, as the clerk, I must remind members that any views or opinions they may previously have expressed must be set aside for the purposes of determining this matter. Members are required to determine the agenda items solely on the basis of the evidence and submissions presented at this meeting and in accordance with the relevant legal and policy framework. I've been past this just now, so it's a letter. I have some concerns over the efficiency of the meeting this evening that I would like to raise under the following. Could I remind from the HPC Code of Conduct, General Conduct 1, respect. As a councillor, you can express, challenge, criticise and disagree with views, ideas, opinions and policies in a robust but civil manner. You should not, however, subject individuals, groups of people or organisations to personal attack. I believe some councillors may have interests in the agenda item based on former colleague status of the deceased. Moreover, at least one has specific interests that have an influence on this matter in question by the nature of their friendship, and request that that councillor perhaps withdraws or abstains accordingly for this reason. Declarations of interest. Please could you inform me of any councillor you have received requests for dispensations, and if so, have they been granted for this item this evening? The answer to that is no. Disclosure of non-registrable interest, non-pecuniary. This is from, is it from the Code of Conduct?
Yeah.
6. Where a matter arises at a meeting which relates to your interest, which is not pecuniary as defined, but is nonetheless so significant that a member of the public with knowledge of the relevant facts would reasonably regard to be so significant that it would materially impact upon your judgment of the public interest, you must disclose the interest. You may take part in any discussion and vote on the matter and can remain in the room. If it is a sensitive interest, you do not have to disclose the nature of the interest. Do you want me to read the rest?
You could do, yeah, or you could reference it.
I have attached screenshots of correspondence that contains messages regarding Councillor Tim Wiltshire being very supportive and suggests, albeit of extremely good intentions, it must be considered under item 6 above and in conjunction with standing order and code of conduct item. Consideration should also be made to consider if this is also compliant or violates the standing orders for participation in this agenda item. HPC standing orders item 3U, a councillor or non-councillor with voting rights who has a disclosable pecuniary interest or other interest as set out in the council's code of conduct in a matter being considered at a meeting is subject to statutory limitations or restrictions under the code on their right to participate and vote on that matter. If this councillor was one of the 2 councillors calling for a suspension of standing orders, is that valid? I've already answered there were 3. If standing orders are suspended, how does that reflect on the validity of the meeting? Is that if there was...
That doesn't matter now, is it?
I have extracted further points as an aide-memoire and reference.
You don't need to read them necessarily.
You don't need, right, okay.
Because they are just people, they are things which the councillors would know themselves because they've obviously read all the policies on code of conduct, etc., standing orders.
Okay.
But you have the evidence of why I've got of what particular thing I've done there and the supportiveness, which I am not finding as being officious or nasty. I'm finding it very good that he's supportive, but I do find it could have an influence on the decisions being taken here.
Okay.
And from that point of view, that's why I've written to you.
Right, okay, because we haven't even moved to public session, etc. yet. Sophie, you wanted to say
Yes,
something?
so just given the concerns raised and also to protect the council with this debate, can we all as members just confirm for the tape and the minutes that we're all considering this with an open mind, please?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Good.
Right, okay, so it's finished. So have we got any apologies, Jan?
Yes, we've got apologies from Councillor Eddie McNally and Councillor Peter Howden.
Thank you. Have we got any declarations of interest, anyone? No, thank you. Right, thank you. Right, okay. So there is no public item on here, but it's my discretionary. Would anyone from the public like to say anything before we continue the meeting?
You go. No. Okay. I think we all know roughly what this is about. It started out as being about Becky's wishes. However, further details that I personally found as I trawled through makes it a much wider issue, and I'd like to bring that to the council's attention. Other people have been asking for specific grave spaces and have been turned down. The rules and regulations on the cemetery state that the grave spaces are assigned by the council. It doesn't include, nor does it exclude, the ability of residents to request specific spaces. Now, I then looked at the role of the parish councillor as published on the HPC website, and it says to take collective decisions on behalf of all residents within the parish. Councillors must take great care to avoid taking decisions that take into account their own opinions, only. They have a responsibility to be well informed, especially about diverse local views, and to listen to and understand the views and needs of different groups in the community. Councillors cannot assume that they represent the interests of electors without consulting them. The residents, the electorate, have been asking for specific grave spaces in exceptional circumstances. The rules and regulations don't prohibit it, but they're being rejected anyway. That to me says HPC are not listening to the desire of residents, and despite it being a key principle of parish councillors that they will do so. There was a mention of potentially increased maintenance costs, but if simple restrictions on selecting grave spaces are put into place, it would mitigate that. For example, you can only go as far as the next row. Other parish councils, and I did do some trawling, why I don't know, I have found a number of examples. Some insist that they always allocate the next sequential grave space. No arguments, nothing else. Others say, in exceptional circumstances, they will consider it. I didn't find, and okay, I haven't looked at every single parish council in the whole of England, but I did not find another single one that simply said, we allocate spaces. so they're generally much more clear. I personally believe that HPC need to specify what they're going to do to remove that ambiguity, and that it neither includes nor excludes. I would also urge you to listen to your residents, your electorate, some of whom have been saying, we want this to be available to us. Rules are made by people, they can be changed by people, and the rule that you've currently got isn't clear. Personally, I would say that you listened to people. Say that you've decided that because of the kinds of requests you've been getting, this needs to change. You might even get some good publicity out of it by being able to say, yes, we've listened to you as councillors, and we have agreed that there is a need to do this change. Yes, it would give Becky her last wish, but it's not about that. It's about giving all residents of Holbeach Parish the opportunity to potentially keep family members together as they mourn. Do the right thing by your electorate, listen to them and change the rules.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to say anything?
I would just like to add something to that. Up until the time that, sorry, don't mind if I don't stand
Not at
up. Up until the time that Becky fell ill with this dreadful cancer, I didn't give it a thought about burials. It's not something that particularly concerns me, and I haven't been worrying about it. But then Becky said that she and Sean were there talking, and Sean and Phil, which are Becky's dad, said that they had come back from a meeting and were absolutely horrified and very upset at the fact that it wasn't just the clerk there, but it was another member of the council there as well, which I found very strange because as far as I was aware, it's always just been the clerk or the deputy clerk has seen a person and listened to their wishes of what they want. They felt intimidated, and we are not here to intimidate the public at a time when it is very, very worrying for them. We are here to listen to what they have to say and what they need. And it is because of this that I then wrote to Sir John Hayes and made him fully aware of the situation here, and also the press. Now, I can't go further with that. That's not up to me. That is up to the family. But I do hope that those that are against Becky being allowed the space and where she wants it are big enough that they will say, yes, we'll allow it, yes, we are going to have some backlash, but we are doing it for the right reasons.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Gordon?
Yes, can I ask the clerk, since she's been in office, how many people have come and requested a Pacific grave space?
Quite a few. Quite a lot.
And why has this not been brought to the council?
Because it was always policy, and unfortunately the cemetery policy that was agreed at council last June was never publicised on the website. Don't know why, but that's which is slightly different from what appears on the website.
So will there be, to grant this for Becky, will there be retrospective
Well, you
for
can't.
anybody who previously wanted to come back and say, yes, I do now?
If somebody has been interred, then obviously it would be any. I don't know. I don't make decisions. I carry out the decisions on behalf of the council. But if you put a date on it from such and such a date, then no. But people could be asking, yeah. And it goes way back before my time as well. It's not. This was a rule that was in place before I came here.
2 seconds. Go on.
Just a follow-up question then. What, because the benefit, nobody's seen it, what does the policy actually say that's
Oh, you'll
enforced?
see it in a moment.
Okay.
You'll see all the policy because
Yeah.
it's the policy that was rewritten a year ago
Right. Yeah.
with some proposed amendments, but we're moving on before the
Yeah,
agenda.
no, fine. I would just say nothing to do actually with Becky. As very sad as that is, I thought Becky was a very nice lady. I think this has resulted in a very sad situation for if there are, as you say, 40 or 50 people that have been refused. And again,
I didn't say 40 or 50, I said...
Oh, did you? Oh, I thought you just said
No.
50. So that's my fault. But many that have been, I take it, refused over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, no disrespect at all. Those people will feel very sad and very disheartened that the situation can't be changed for them at all, really.
I
Can
know.
they, without? So I would just say that perhaps the policy should be reviewed. Maybe it's already on the agenda. Maybe somebody suggested it. That would be my suggestion.
Is there any-
Maybe so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, following on from that and some of the other conversations have been said, I've been very fastidious and argumentative over the last week or so regarding the policies and the policy changes, and I've concentrated on that because at the point in time we had your last meeting, I didn't know you were discussing with Becky. In fact, I even talked to Becky about the last meeting that you had, and we had correspondence about it, which you have a copy of, which is for you and Clara to read. So, Becky was aware of my concerns on the policies. And it's the policy which is the main thing, and as you would have known from the correspondence I've sent out to you as well, there are an awful lot of people who have been turned down for various policies. Some may be considered frivolous, some may be considered very personal to people. We go back to the teddy bears on graves of 10 years ago, which hit the press. 2,500 people campaigned and petitioned against it, and still the council stuck to their policies. And this is the sort of thing that could happen. If there's a change in policy now, then you could go back to those two couple who wanted their particular item put on their grave, and they could be very concerned about the change of exception because they weren't given an exception. Other people are the same thing, but they haven't been given an exception. It might sound very hard, and I'm very sorry if it does, but I feel that you have to go with the policy as it stands at the moment, because of the problems in the past and the future ones you might create.
Okay, thank you. I think everyone's had a chance, yeah? So can you move on? Yes? Okay, so this was going to be closed session, but I would propose that we agree to suspend the standing orders and move item 267045 from the closed session to public session. Do I have a seconder on that, please? Thank you. Who was the seconder? Everyone. So, okay, thank you. Do I have a vote on that, please? Thank you. Okay, so now that's what we just did.
I'll propose we suspend standing orders.
I'll second
Oh, vote for that.
Change the thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Right, okay, so now we move on to that agenda item. Would anyone like to start it off? Sophie?
Well, I think it's just worthwhile, given the last one we held in closed session, explaining how we've got to this point realistically. So we did have a request for somebody to choose their specific grey space. That was debated at the last meeting, both having an exception and a policy change. Now, we were noting the fact that a lot of other people had chosen their grey spaces, requested to choose grey spaces and been denied previously. And the current procedure, shall we say, because it wasn't specified in the policy, was that it's the next allocated grey space. And that primarily was done for efficiency and ease of management, realistically. It had been discussed previously about marking out all of the grey spaces with concrete plinths, but that hadn't been progressed because of cost and also the council becoming responsible for those plinths. So at the last meeting, after a bit of debate, I think it's fair to say we all unanimously came to the conclusion that an exception wouldn't be appropriate because we felt we should be treating everybody fairly, and if we were going to do it, it would be for everybody. So then we moved on to looking at the policy and how we could allow people to be able to choose the spaces they wish to have. We did debate it very thoroughly. I mean, we were there for several hours. And unfortunately, it came to the conclusion when we looked at every scenario and how we could facilitate it, the solution that came forward was just open it up one row at a time. The concern members had was that it's only affecting a small number of people, and if somebody requested that they wanted to be next to their family members and therefore they had to be in the next row, that still wouldn't be able to be accepted. So we didn't feel that that was a sufficient solution, and unfortunately there was no solution that we felt affected enough people to do. Following that meeting, several of us met down at the cemetery to discuss whether we could find an alternative that would work. We did come up with a potential solution, which we then asked the parks team and the office team to look at the feasibility of. And we have then since met down at the cemetery again with the parks team and the office team, and a proposal has been put forward that would ultimately allow all of the cemetery areas we're currently burying or doing cremated remains in to be opened up in zones, so it would be a significant area. That would mean those spaces having to be marked out by the parks team, and they've come up with what I feel is a very cost-effective solution. And therefore we have suggested and come up with the wording to change that policy so that any zone that we designated it's open for burials or cremations, anybody can pick their grave space within that zone. So it affects everybody, it affects a large number of people, and it affects every single area that we are currently burying in. I think that's a decent summary.
Yes. Sam?
Could I just ask the clerk to explain why one of the councillors came with you? Because this seems to be a thing that's been bandied about by a couple of people, and it's obviously a concern. So, it's been pointed out that one of the councillors came with you when you had the meeting with the family, and I just wanted it out there in open forum, just to dispel any issues that people might have with that.
It does say on the last draft minutes, I felt, because it was close to home, personally, I felt I would like somebody with me for support. And it was a good meeting. The two gentlemen were laughing and having a bit of a joke, really, which I think sometimes helps, doesn't it? They were saying some things that were quite amusing. That's what people tend to do when they're, but that's the only reason I asked, for no other reason than I felt I needed some support.
Sam?
It was also stated that it was a council decision, wasn't it?
Yes,
and
it
it was
was.
very important that everybody was aware that this was not a clerk decision, that it was a council
We
decision.
agreed to it.
So it wasn't seen that the clerk was doing something of her own volitions. It was there that the council was there, and we were all supporting each other through a very difficult decision. And as Councillor Hudson said, it was a thoroughly difficult decision, and hopefully this one will move forward in a way that happily makes everybody happy.
Thank you. Right, okay, so I believe we've got the proposed change to policy on the screen.
Shall I read it to you?
Yes, please, Jan.
The council may designate areas of its cemeteries into burial zones or sections for operational maintenance, capacity management and future planning purposes. All areas within the cemetery that are open and available for burials or cremated remains shall form part of a designated zone or section determined by the council. Subject to grave availability, purchasers may select a grave plot within the zone or section identified by the council at the time of purchase. The council reserves the right to determine which zones or sections are available for future burials and may open, close or redesignate zones as necessary for cemetery management purposes.
Is there any comments on that, please?
I'm just seeing if I made any other alterations because I think I don't think I did, but and that would have just been operational.
Yeah, 2 seconds, please.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I've seen 2 public members put their hands up. I'll allow it, but can we keep it brief because we want to move on with it?
Absolutely. Can I just ask, does that mean that Becky gets pensions?
Yes.
There are circumstances under which you could get them.
Thank you, Councillor.
Would there be any provision in this one here for anyone who's at the other end of the cemetery and they want to be moved?
Well, it's
It's a
moving.
very difficult situation, but if you're doing it in like this to lower the zones, are you willing to give that into this? Just a question.
Yeah.
Sophie?
So, yes, technically, they would have to apply to be exhumed and then reburied. And we would have to consider it at that time, but there's a certain process we have to go to exhume either ashes or burials. So, as long as it followed that process, then we can't stop anybody from purchasing an exclusive right burial if they want to inter ashes or bury an individual.
And could that be absent policy then, if that's the case?
I mean, you could also do it, I think it was discussed previously, where this policy comes into force from a date and there'll be no backtracking from that or anything that's happened previously.
Isabel?
I think that needs to be made clear at this point. When we met down at the cemetery this last week, because of the area that is going to be opened up, it's all the way to that roadway. It's that complete area because then it affects enough people. And it will also be the cremated remains area, and it will also be the cremated remains area in Parkway Cemetery. So that is a significant amount of marking out that needs to be done. The Parks team have estimated what they believe is a reasonable time frame to do it, working on it as quickly as they possibly can. But what we discussed was that obviously the policy cannot come into place until we can guarantee that it can be live for everybody. So what we were discussing was around about sort of the end of this month potentially when it would go live. Now that may affect obviously the situation that we're talking about with the family, in that it may mean that it's delayed slightly for them, but we would hope that that would be acceptable for them to be able to have what they want. But obviously we don't know how long it's going to take, but that's where we're estimating at the moment.
Very, very quick.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's an amazing relief, and I will personally speak to the family to make them aware of the need to delay.
Sam, I saw your hand go up.
In law, there is retrospective law, which means that you, not to talk down to anybody, but which means you cannot be, I would say in an informal way, done for a crime that the law has changed after you've done it. One would assume that that would be the same for policy, unfortunately. That policy, once if something has happened post-policy, somebody can't bring it back and say, well, you've done it now. There has to be a date and time when things come in. And I know how difficult it would be for some people, and this is one of the reasons why we fought and discussed it for so long. But there has to be a start date, otherwise people can constantly come back and say, well, you've changed this policy and I want it beforehand. When the decision is made pre that policy, there has to be, because retrospective law is very important in law.
Can I just say something again?
Yes.
It is a very expensive and difficult process to exhume someone and rebury them. It requires a licence from the Home Office to start with. Then you have to pay an undertaker and grave diggers. It's a lot of money.
Just a brief rebuttal, please, if I may, because it's been answered to me here through you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I understand it's expensive, but there might be some people who want to do it, and therefore the option should still be there, in my opinion. And the comment about you can't, once the policy is in place, you can't change it, in the nicest possible way, it would appear, and I'm not trying to be nasty on this, that you make a policy, then a week later you have another extraordinary meeting, you suspend standing orders, and you change the policy. So I disagree slightly with what's being said there.
Policies can be changed at any time.
Yes.
That's why it's a policy. Sam?
All my thing is that there has to be a date of start, of commencement of policy change. So yes, policy can be changed at any point, but that can't be retrograded, one would assume, unless that is then put into the policy itself that there was a previous start date.
2 seconds, please, because too many people. Jan wanted to say
Yeah.
something.
So what I was going to suggest is that we put in there that we can't go back on, if anybody that's been allocated previously is as it is. This is a new policy and new start from now, both don't agree. But also, if you tonight were to agree this policy, subject to the date of the implication of the policy at the next meeting, because at the next meeting on the 13th of July, you'll have a really good idea of how the work's going to put the things in. But at least the family will know that it's been agreed, but not the start date. I don't know what you think, Tom.
We went first. Sam, let's go to you. Let's go left to right.
Not to go against the clerk, but fundamentally, I have no issue with what the member of public has said. And if somebody wishes to pay the that there should be no. If somebody can afford and wants to do it, I have no personal grievance with that. I'm just saying that policy date should be policy date.
Tim next, I think.
Categorically, we kind of have a situation where people who've been allocated growing spaces and are not yet passed away should also be allowed to move if they wish to.
Yeah,
Therefore, if it's going to come out, digging them up, fair enough, that's what it has to be done, but should it have to be done. But those people who simply booked one because that was always available to them, then I think it should be the option at this point in time.
They could change, you're suggesting they should be allowed to change?
Yes, yes, sure.
2 seconds, please, because did you still want to say something? You had your hand up.
Yeah, please. That's a fair point, Tim. If someone has booked it but they've not yet been interred, I don't see any problem with them changing it.
Isabel.
The only other thing is, I mean, obviously it will be in the policy, but are we going to be making it very clear to people when they come in to purchase a growth space? Is that going to be specified to them that they are able to pick within a zone?
Yes.
Because, you know, it's important that they're given that option. And also, the people that we know of that have also made requests recently, are we going to be going back to them now at this point and saying this policy will be changing?
Who we're talking about.
And then give them the option.
Okay.
Because obviously they're going to probably hear about this, but not know that it's going to affect them as well.
Regarding timescales for this, as has been said, we don't know exactly how long it's going to take the park team to do this. Hopefully it won't take as long as a month. It's tricky because the ground is extremely hard at the moment, so we just don't know how long amount of work it's going to take. But assuming that they do it in 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever it is, or enough of it that it opens the choice out to everybody, I would like this council to give the clerk or the Green Spaces Committee delegated powers to state when that is open rather than have to come back to a new meeting on it.
That seems reasonable.
So do you want to set the date now, or do you want to set it?
No, we'll wait until we've heard about the parking
And then
when they've progressed enough so that it's open to everyone. I don't think they have to finish the last row that no one's...
For people listening on this and getting a bit worried, I think we should at least state that we did have an estimate of time.
Yes, we've had an estimate of time, and in my view, it was too short a time, and I think they were trying to rush to create. And my view was, rather than rush it, we need to get it right, do it properly, and open it up, all that area. And I take your point, Paul, you're saying, oh well, if it last row doesn't happen, all roads need to happen, because as it is not fair to everybody, you've got to have enough spaces available to people for them to choose. And it also is the cremated areas as well, which I know is not necessarily marking out from their point of view, but it is for the inputting of data onto your systems, which is another thing. It's not just the park team that are having to do this, it's the office staff as well.
2 seconds, Sophie, please. Can we, because I want to make it clear to the public what the estimate was, and so I don't want it to be seen we're not making any attempts to delay things here. So can we are we allowed to publicly state what the estimate was and what we felt was acceptable?
Yeah. So
So my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, the estimate come in at 2 weeks, and it was felt that 2 weeks into hard ground, a hell of a lot of them was a bit pushing it, so we felt it'd be more like 4 weeks. Double, if it gets less, all good, but it's better to overestimate than underestimate. Sophie was
Yeah.
next, I think.
Just to clarify as well, that 2 weeks was just for the larger area in Hallgate, which is about 600 graves. And then you've got the smaller cremated remains and the other smaller cremated remains, which are a lot less. Can I suggest that we do a proposal to say that we're bringing the policy in a month's time or sooner if it is completed?
Yes.
So it's either as soon as it's completed or a month, whichever is sooner.
Paul?
Yeah, all I'm trying to do is to avoid having to have another council meeting
Yeah.
to agree a date.
Correct.
And if that suits
So-
the bill, then that's probably all right.
Yeah, so if we say, so I think everyone sort of nodded that Green Spaces can have the final date. So basically we'll say a month or sooner, with the sooner being sooner via Green Spaces.
No, I mean, it'd just be, I don't
Who would advise it
think
sooner?
you need to necessarily delegate it, because the agreement would be 1 month, or basically if it's completed sooner at that point.
Right.
So it's quite certain, but I just think that gives any families a bit more certainty about the timescales we're actually talking about, rather than just delegating it completely.
Okay, there's a cut. So I'm just trying to count things here. Sam?
I agree completely, but I would give it down to the clerk because she might be the one finishing the computer side of it. So realistically, if we say a month, which I've just got into my head, hopefully he doesn't break his leg or something like that, because if you say in a month, and you put that written down, and then there's a issue, then that month becomes an issue itself, but hopefully that doesn't happen. But surely it has to come down to the clerk to say, yeah, this is live now because you won't be able to do the system until the graves are marked out, or you can work.
Well, yeah, because Dan and I have
You'll
worked
work
out
together,
how many
okay.
we've got left.
But I think
in
you've
that
got to
row,
really
and
have
then
that saying, we hope it will be in a month, but you
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
you will go, yes, this is live today, because you've got everything written down.
Thank you. Did you want to say something? I saw your hand up. No? Okay, so I think,
You've got to bring the costs as well,
Yeah.
which costs.
okay, there was some cost there, okay, for me. So there was 2 options given to us with regards to how much this is going to cost. Basically, it's the option of 4x4 posts or 3x3 posts. The rest is just standard stuff. Is there any views, Sophie?
I think what it was explained to us, so just to clarify, they'll be inset into the ground and the mowers could just go straight over with a circular plaque on them saying the number. I think the 3x3 posts would be perfectly sufficient.
Yeah.
The price given, which is £739.15p, just includes the 618 grove spaces in that Hallgate area.
Slightly different on mine,
Oh,
it's
is
been
it?
revised.
Yeah, it's been revised.
Right, so
Because what he's going to do.
£775.41p.
That's it, yeah. just to keep
Just a
us.
slight difference.
Yeah.
It's only because he's added in row markers, so he said if you can do the job, we'll do it properly.
Yeah.
And at the end of each row will be another post, just with row
Which row
A,
is.
row B, row C.
So I would suggest, given that we have got the 2 cremated remains areas as well, I'm happy to propose we go for the 3x3 posts and give a budget of up to £1,000,
Yeah.
and that will cover everything.
Okay, so shall we have all in one proposal at a time? What do you want to do?
Can I just catch up? So, to make sure I've got it correct, we accept you accept the changes to the new changes to the policy. The commencement date will be in 1 month or sooner.
Yeah.
And the posts will go for 3x3s, and we'll put a budget up to £1,000.
Yes.
Yes. Right.
Is that acceptable, or does someone have to read that again as
I'll
a
propose
proposal?
that one.
You'll
I'll
propose
second
that one. Second that one, please. Paul, did you say
No,
something?
I've just seconded it.
Second it, right, okay. So can we have a vote on that, please? Okay, thank you. Have we got that?
I think that's done.
Then it's done.
Have we voted on the actual change of policy yet?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
that was
all in one.
included.
That's
Yeah.
all done. Okay.
Can the councillor stay? Because Adrian's got something we just need to discuss before you all
Okay.
rush off.
Brilliant. I'm going to stop this meeting. The meeting is ended, okay? No more recording, please.